So hey guys, welcome to my guide for soloing the Armadyl boss. I really hope you find it useful. I put a lot of time and effort into making it, and hopefully you can take down the boss with a lot more confidence after watching the full guide. To break it down, the guide will be split up into 5 sections: a general overview, main requirements and stats, inventory and setup, location and kill count, and finally the boss room itself, with a tips and tricks section at the end, as well as tips that I will be showing you throughout the guide. The Armadyl boss is named Kree'arra. It's got a combat level of 580, which makes it the lowest of the 4 main Gold Wars dungeon bosses. However, don't take this boss as an easy fight, as it has the highest max hit out of all of them, 715, with its powerful ranged attack. For this reason, the deflect or protect from ranged prayer is a must when taking down the boss. In addition, note that Kree'arra is the only Gold Wars dungeon boss out of the original 4 that can attack with all 3 combat styles. However, as we are fully protected from range, the boss only melees in certain situations, and with only one meleeing minion, the Flight Kree'arra, the majority of damage we take is magical, and so we can adapt our inventory and gear to suit this. Kree'arra itself is weak to ranged, so we'll be using range to kill the boss. Please note that this is the only Gold Wars dungeon boss that cannot be attacked with melee, including its minions inside the boss chamber and the agencies outside that you will be killing to get kill count. As customary with the main Gold Wars dungeon bosses, Kree'arra has 3 minions which must also be killed after you've taken down the boss. They are the Flight Kree'arra, combat level 159, which uses melee with a max hit of 200, the Wingman Scree, combat level 143, which uses magic with a max hit of 250, and the Flock Leader Gurin, combat level 149, also with a max hit of 250, which uses ranged. Bear in mind for the later section of the guide, although it has the lowest max hit, the Flight Kree'arra, the melee minion, will tend to do the majority of the damage to you out of the 3 minions. To gain entry to the Gold Wars dungeon itself requires completion of the Troll Stronghold quest, and you must either have 60 agility or 60 strength to lift or squeeze past the boulder that blocks the entrance to the dungeon. Also, a minimum of 70 range is required to use a myth grapple to enter Armadyl's Eyrie, but this will be covered in the next section of the guide. Completion of the Eager's Ruse quest for the Trollheim Teleport or Love Story for Trollheim Teletabs is not required, but would be highly beneficial. For those who don't meet the level requirements for the high level setup in my guide, the Temple of Ikov quest would be an extremely useful quest for an Armadyl pendant, which will act as your god item when you're getting kill count outside of the stronghold. Now, to tackle this boss repeatedly over a long period of time, you will need a good stock of supplies, including pots, food and bolts, as well as miscellaneous items such as myth grapples. You will also need strong ranged defensive gear, as the boss is weak to ranged, and as mentioned previously, this is what we'll be using to take it down. Now, the minimum stats I'd recommend for solo Armadyl, as you can see on screen, are 90 ranged, hit points, magic, and at least 85 defense. As mentioned previously, the majority of the damage you take from Kree'arra will be magical, and it is estimated that 60% of your magical defense comes from your magic level, so that's why there's a magical requirement in the guide. Also, as overloads will be used in the guide, 96 herb oil is an additional requirement, or at least 90 to be able to boost up to overloads with spicy stews, and players will also find the use of super prayers highly useful inside the boss chamber. 450 kills in the Dominion Tower in order to use Dreadnips, unlocking Swift Gloves, and completion of the Seer's Elite tasks for the Enhanced Excalibur and increased Bolt spec will come in very handy whilst killing the boss and his minions. Now, in this guide you will be using a Beast of Burden, as well as a Unicorn Stallion familiar for when your original familiar runs out of food or dies. Now, I will touch upon this in the next section of the guide, but the rationale behind this is that the kill count Armadyl can be such a huge time waster, especially if you're a lower level without 99 range or access to overloads, that you want to maximize your time inside the boss chamber killing Kree and your kills per trip. Now, this is well worth the time, and if you use low-cost foods such as monkfish or shark or cavefish, you can add a significant amount of kills to your trips whilst keeping costs relatively low. Finally, you'll also be taking Bones to Peaches tabs, and you'll be using these once your Beast of Burden has run out of food, is low on food, or once you have a unicorn summoned, and this is what is going to sustain us for the second half of the trip. Now, I will be showing the 70 to 79 defense setup in the guide, along with the non-overload method, so please don't be deterred if you are under 85 defense and you want to solo Kree. But please know that this will of course mean that you cannot use the armor included in the high level setup, which will ultimately decrease your kills per trip and ultimately profit, but you can still make very good money from soloing. I will be showing a total of 3 setups in this section, which are dictated by your ranged, dungeoneering, magic and defense levels. For the highest level setup, a minimum of 74 prayer for Rigger and 80 dungeoneering for a chaotic crossbow is a must. For both the chaotic crossbow and the Rigger, a minimum of 84 dungeoneering is required, and if you're an absolute pro at dungeoneering and you have an eagle eye kite as well, I would highly suggest using it unless you own an Elysian or a Divine Spirit Shield. Now before I get started with the inventory and the sort of different variables and stuff that you can change around, I want to show you what swapping one piece of armor can do to change your stats, and it can change them quite dramatically, to be honest. Now notice that this pretty much here was the typical setup for Kree'arra for a very long time. Pretty much full Armadyl with CCB, Fury and Glavens. And you notice this gives you very high ranged accuracy, whilst giving you decent defense and absorb mage. However, with the release of the Polypore dungeon in November last year, the Ganodermic Poncho came into the game. Now this armor is very bizarre in a way because it breaks a lot of the fundamental rules that armor does in the game. Now it gives you very good mage offensive stats, whilst giving you incredibly high mage defensive stats and absorb. Now obviously at Kree, as mage will be the main thing that's causing us damage, at least from the boss, we want to kind of maximize the mage defense, but kind of maintain this range accuracy so we can still get good hits on the boss. Now if you pay attention, pretty much I want you to pay attention to this range stats, the overall melee defense stats, the absorb magic, and the magic defense. Now, if I equip this, immediately everything except the stab defense goes up quite dramatically. The mage defense goes up by around 50. The absorb magic absolutely soars up from 22, pretty much more than doubles. It goes up to 46%, and the absorb melee goes from 0 to 15%. However, this is all at the cost of range accuracy, which drops from 226 down to 182. Now, I have 50 recorded kills, which I've used to obtain stats. This is why, sort of the guide, I tried to make it as full as I could. And I wrote down and calculated all the damage received in all the different inventories, the average kills per trip and stuff. I did 50 basically targeted kills in each setup that I'll be showing you. So Carol's, Gano Poncho, and full Armadyl. And then I went out 3 times. I saw how many kills I could get in 3 trips. So I'll pull those stats for you. They're quite interesting. You'll be able to see them at the end of the video. But the main point is that above a ranged accuracy of around 180 to 190, the success of hits on the boss doesn't really improve that dramatically. It's about a 6-to-1 ratio of hits to misses. And I've tried this in Pernix. I've tried this with this setup. And I've tried this with full Armadyl and Carol's. And this setup just seems to work the best. Now, if you compare prices, the Ganodermic Poncho is currently around 3 million GP, whereas the Armadyl chestplate is around 10.8 million GP at the current GE prices. Now, of course, this is degradable, and it has the added drawback of requiring 85 defense and 85 magic. However, if you meet the requirements for the guide that I posted in the previous section, then you should be able to wear this no problem. Also, an interesting fact is this gives us superior mage defense to Pernix when using the Ganodermic Poncho. This is just one substitution. Now, you can do it with the Ganodermic leggings and opt for the chestplate to give you the range accuracy. However, the mage defense and absorb of the leggings isn't really that good. So you want to really be opting for the poncho whilst killing the boss. So yeah, that was just a quick note. This really comes into its own when you're doing dual Armadyl. And you can achieve up to 5 or 6 times your normal amount of kills. So a maxed sort of 99 defense range mage with the axe, you can easily do over 160 plus kills, and that's not even bringing brew flasks. So it really does make a huge difference, this mage absorb, over time. And you'll see when I'm showing you the different methods later on, the difference between this and Carol's, and it is quite dramatic. So now we're back and properly geared. I've just done the Trollheim trick. This enables you to pick up 2 items that you previously dropped. I'll explain it more in the tips and tricks section of the guide. So now we're pretty much geared up, and we're going to go and get kill count and tackle the boss. Now, first things off, the yak is filled with shark. As I said before, this is a relatively low-priced food. They're around 500 GP each at the minute. And this basically enables you to stay in the boss room for a long period of time, because that kill count can be a big pain, depending on your range levels and your stats. it's good to maximise your time in the boss room. Now, if we go to the equipment stats, we can see pretty much I've opted for the Penance Aura. Now, this is purely because I'm using a Divine. If you don't know Divine, as I said in the previous slide, this can be substituted for an Eagle-Eye Kite, any Sigil Shield, so a Spectral, an Elysian, or a Divine. Obviously not Arcane, as Arcane's an offensive shield. If you don't have any of these, you go for a DFS, make sure it's charged. And if you don't have a DFS, you kind of are pushing your luck a little bit. You could opt for a Blessed Spirit Shield or a Mind Shield, one of the elemental shields for the mage defense, but notice that these give you vastly inferior stats, and obviously they don't have the special effects that the Elysian and the Divine have. Obviously not everyone will have a Divine or Elysian, so the way you compensate for it is if you say you brought up DFS, you compensate by bringing more brews and less prayer, because the special effect of the Divine is a guaranteed prayer drain. Now, Penance is a very, very useful aura because you can pretty much negate the prayer drain from the Divine, as I said before. But if you're going to use curses, say you don't have access to Rigor, but you do have access to Soul Split because you're 92 prayer, a very good aura to bring would be Vampirism. And what this does is basically stacks with the effect of Soul Split, and it gives you 25% of the damage you deal back as life points. So this will be very, very useful when you've downed the boss and you're basically Soul Splitting on the minions. Now, I've gone for Swift Gloves. These aren't a necessity. You can use Barrow's Gloves. I will be using Barrow's Gloves in the lower level guide as well as the DFS. Glaven, these can be easily substituted for Snakeskin or Ranger Boots. Again, I'll be using Snakeskin probably in the lower level setup. Chaotic Crossbow, Av's Accumulator. You can opt for a keep if you want, if you're okay with the bolt loss, but it does give you an accuracy bonus, and as you are using the Ganademic Poncho, at least in this setup, you kind of want to maximize your range bonus. Fury can be swapped for a Glory, and the Myth Grapple is a necessity. Now you notice here I have an Archer's Ring. This can be obviously swapped for an Imbued Archer's Ring or an Imbued Onyx Ring, and you'll notice in my inventory I'll have a Ring of Wealth. Now what this will basically enable me to do is to keep the bonus of the Archer Ring for the majority of the kill and then switch it at the end, so I still get the Ring of Wealth effect and the chance of getting a rare item. Now, because Solar Armadyl is quite click intensive, I tend to just usually bring a Ring of Wealth. This kind of basically does mean that I lose range offensive stats, but I'm still keeping a fairly higher ranged accuracy bonus, and you'll be clicking on Dreadnips moving around the boss room. Due to the nature of the boss's attacks, you'll see in the last section of the guide, it does knock you around the room, so there can be quite a lot of clicking, and you will quite often forget to do a Ring of Wealth switch when soloing, so I tend to just camp it on and leave it on like this. Now, the Yak Silver Shark, as I mentioned before, I have one emergency brew. Obviously, don't forget Teletabs, a Renew Pouch for the Yak, the Unicorn for when I've eaten through the Yak, along with Scrolls, Words to Peaches tabs, one 4-dice brew, 3 Rocktails. These are just sort of high healing food. So say I'm AFKing on the kill count, which doesn't usually happen, but say you can get comboed by a minion, or say several Zami items. It doesn't happen, but say emergency food, it's always good to have emergency food. Now, I am reusing flasks. These aren't a necessity. You can use 4-dose vials, but of course flasks do hold more. Just for people who don't know, 6 doses of Overload last you exactly 30 minutes. Prayer Renewers run out at exactly the same time, so this is an hour and a half of Overload. This is more than I'll probably use. I'll probably use an hour to an hour and 20 minutes, but it's always good to have excess. Now, I brought Super Prayer Flasks. You can of course go for normal Prayer Flasks or 4-dose Prayer Pots, but notice that if your prayer runs out before your food, you will have to telly. As I did mention before, the Kree'arra has that huge max hit with range of 715. So if your prayer drops, there's really no way you can sustain being in the boss room, as the boss does not actually drop prayer pots. Now, the general setup is up to you. You can arrange these however you like. Jonas at the bottom is all down to your personal preference. Excalibur is obviously useful because it heals you 80% of the damage that's caused by an overload. You'll basically mix and match as you go. Don't be worried if you seem like you're thinking that you're taking too much gear. Kree does require a fair amount of gear, and you'll ease into it very, very quickly. So basically now that we've got geared up and set up, let's go tackle the boss and get our kill count. The blue marker indicated on screen is the tele spot for the Trollheim teleport spell. Once you've arrived, you can either run east or west and use the cliff sides, which are marked as the green agility obstacles, to reach the Goldwurst dungeon to the northeast. Once you have run past the wolves and climbed down the rope, you will be in the Goblins dungeon. You want to run straight south and grapple across the chasm with your myth grapple into Armadyl's Eyrie, and it is here you will get your kill count. So now we're basically at the stage where we want to get inside the Goblins dungeon and start getting our kill count. So we're going to progress just like we did on the slideshows, and we're going to run down using this series of cliff sides, which are basically shortcuts. Now you can just run around if you don't have the agility level, but it does save you some hassle. I think it's 41 agility to be able to climb up and down these cliff sides, but if you wanted to use, for example, ranger boots, you would have to run all the way through using the new death plateau method. Now, if you're max combat, these trolls on the cliffside will not throw rocks at you. I'm 134 combat, but they will be completely unaggressive if you are max combat. So what you want to do is you want to lift up the boulder. Now, a little tips and tricks thing that I will be showing at the end of the guide is basically just to overload before you reach this part, because the snow has stat draining effects, and it also drains your special bar and your stats. As well as your run. As you can see there, my run just dropped from pretty much full to 0. So you want to kind of run down here as quick as you can. Keep retoggling your run. Now there's a Saradome in Major as soon as you climb down the ladder, so you want to pray Mage and just head south. You may get hit a few times by range. This is unavoidable. You're bound to take a little bit of damage unless you can absolutely ninja across. Now you can choose to get kill count here, but it is quite usually bot heavy, so what I like to do is grapple across the Eyrie. Even though there are a fair few amount of bots here, you can actually use them to your advantage. So basically now we've grappled across into the Eyrie, we can get rid of our grapple, put on our diamond bolts, and we can start getting kill count. Now if you notice, I didn't bring a Zami item. My only item is an Armadyl, top and chain skirt. So basically you see if I go next to this Gorak is a Zamorak follower, so basically as soon as I go next to it, it will instantly go aggro on me. So you can basically get kill count in 2 different ways. You can run over here, and this Gorak will basically get trapped in this little nook. Now basically you can run around, pot up, and get your kill count over here. Now the fast way, which is the way I always beat my friends when we're getting kill count for team, is simply just overload over here. Now my special bar will be drained because of the snow effects outside. Simply pray range. You see I did take a range hit there. And basically work in a clockwise formation. Now there are a lot of low levels. There's 79, I believe a 97 and another 79 over here, sorry, a 73. So basically you can just work in a clockwise formation and just keep ranging them going around. You can use dread nips if you want. I don't personally bother as the kill count is pretty quick. Now the kill count here can take anywhere from 8 minutes with Void, Overload, CCB and Rigor to well over half an hour. And this is pretty much, I think, what discourages a lot of people from trying solo Armadyl or even team Armadyl, just purely because the kill count is a very, very big hassle as compared to bosses like Bandos, where you can get the kill count in 5 minutes. So yeah, just keep going here until you get a 40 kill count. So, as you can see guys, I've used 2 doses of Overload and I now have my 40 kill count. Now, if I was using Ruby Bolts, I would have a lot of clicking to do, but as it is now, I still have Dread Nips, an Excalibur, repotting, and basically just sort of keep running back to the boss so my Dread Nip doesn't die. So there is quite a lot of clicking involved with Kree, which is why it's good not to burden yourself with too many things like a Ring of Wealth switch. I mean, in this particular example, I've just opted for the Ring of Wealth by itself. Of course, if you want to do the Ring of Wealth switch or just not go for a Ring of Wealth at all, and just stick with your Onyx Eye, your Archer, or your Archer Eye, that's completely fine. So basically what you want to do now is just some boss checks. So I want to check that my yak's full. It might be worth checking the timer on it. So it's got 30 minutes left. So basically what I'm going to do now is I'm going to activate my aura. So that would be Vampirism or whatever aura you want to choose. Master Sharpshooter would also be a good alternative. So I want to pot up. And the Excalibur, quite usefully, fills 80% of the damage that an Overload causes. So I'm going to also eat a Rock Tail. In pre-range. Now, basically the reason I'm on Curses is because there's an altar in the boss room and I'm going to switch to Rigor heal count. So I want to turn my leeches on. and walk in and attack the boss. Now straight off the bat, it's going to be attacking me. Now these grey winds that you can see, whirlwinds, are her range attack, and the blue ones are his mage attack. So basically what you want to do is you want to set Dreadnought on it, walk close. Now you should be watching your HP. Now if you paid attention in the earlier part of the guide, you know that the minions have max hits of 250, 250 and 200 respectively. So technically the max LP that you can be at without being comboed down to 0 is around 700. However, it's pretty safe to eat around about 500 HP, as they won't tend to combo you for above 200 very, very often at all. Now, you can see from the game bar, you have to keep watching for when your Dreadnought dies. And obviously bear in mind that when a Dreadnought is in this first screen, it does block your inventory. So you have to eat. Now, she has just melee me there, and basically going to show this in the next part of the guide. So if I run away and I brew up, and of course I've lagged, customary JX. Now, if I come over here, I attack. Now, if I stop attacking, she'll basically run towards me, usually. The Dreadnought's got a stun, that's fine. I'll explain when she unfreezes. As I explained earlier in the guide, her melee attack, or his melee attack, sorry, is only used in specific situations. So that's basically when the boss isn't under attack like that, when I summon my Dreadnought. He'll do his melee attack. Now the melee attacks are extremely rapid. Are extremely rapid, so it is worth getting away and avoiding that damage. As say if you are spam brewing, that would be a fair example. You would basically be taking constant melee hits. So it's best to either run away or use your Dreadnought. This is why Dreadnoughts come in very, very useful. It's because the Dreadnought can freeze her, so he cannot melee you. Apologies if I keep saying her, it's old habits. I'll just stick to the boss from now on. Now, basically, I want to try and get the Flock Leader Grin down as quickly as possible. This is quite a slow kill. So I don't think I'm going to make the respawn to be able to go on the altar. Getting very, very slow hits. And the Grin is the mage one. So you want to take out the Kalista first, always, followed by the Major, followed by the Ranger. And you would usually keep your overhead range spray up the entire time. You can, of course, Soul Split Flick, but as I'm planning to be switching to, you see, the boss is then spawned again. Now I'm planning to be switching to Kree'arra. So what I'm going to do is straight again, you want to get Dreadnought on the boss as quick as you can. Now, if I click underneath myself, the boss will usually melee me quite rapidly. See? Now, the melee attacks are around the speed of a rapier, well, just faster. So, you can get comboed quite easily. So you want to avoid melee damage at all times. Now, the trick for this boss is, you know, it looks pretty easy. That is because it is an easy boss. It is a very easy boss. You just have to kind of keep calm and not panic. The trick to basically just good solo PVM is just not panicking. You can see my Dreadnought's died. Now, a good way is just to spam click when you want to summon a Dreadnought. And that means that the boss cannot reach towards you and melee you, which is always a welcome. Now you can see for the majority, or I'd say of the kills so far, I've been hit hardly anything, but you will get kills where suddenly you just get hit in a rush of hits, and there's nothing really you can do about this. It's sort of just the game coding working against you. But quite often you will barely have to eat a Kree, maybe only a Rocktail or a Shark, and then maybe a couple of Unispecs and a Peach. Now, you can see I'm around 500 LP there, so I'm actually going to eat your Rocktail. It is best to just eat out of your familiar as early as you can, so you can get the uni out and then start using the scrolls. Now, theoretically, I could do this. I think the maximum I've done on a familiar is, I think, 19, 20 kills. And then you would summon out between here and there because I'm under 500 LP. So the maximum you can do, I believe, is around 25. I mean, it depends what sort of food you're putting in your familiar. Of course, if you went sort of all out for brewed flasks, you would last a hell of a long time, but I would not really advise that, as it would be extremely expensive. So you can see there my overload's all out. There's no need to panic. You can either do it mid-kill, or because the boss is almost dead, I'm going to wait to the end of the kill. I'm just going to overload afterwards. Looks like I've got Dragon Balls E as a drop there. You'll learn what quite a lot of the drops are just from looking. So basically now I want to do is I want to get this down as fast as I can so I can switch to rigger. Actually, let's see if my Drenip can do a little stun. Doesn't always. You can see there the Kree'arra, it hits you quite rapidly, not for great amounts of damage, but because the attack speed is again quite rapid, just like Kree'arra's melee attack, you can get hit for a significant amount of life points if you're not paying attention. I'm just going to Drenip these to just try and get them down as quickly as possible. And I'm going to switch to rigger. I should make this kill. You can usually get a good estimation of the spawn times. Of course, if you're in a world with a higher population, the bosses can be respawning much faster. But something like Kree'arra is you tend to find a lot of empty worlds. Now you see it has instantly respawn, and it's just been a bit unlucky there. And obviously in quite a high respawn world, usually doesn't respawn that fast. That's not a problem, just stay on cursors, you can source for LP. But I have got the extra pair allocated because I will be using rigger, so the prayer drain will be quite rapid. Now, once my yak's dead, then I'll start looting these bones in between kills, like so. Make sure you keep getting a click on the boss, and then because the Bones to Peaches has about a 4 or 5 second animation, you want to hit the tab when you're a reasonable distance away from the boss, so it cannot run across immediately. And then you can just see it gave me Peaches in my inventory there for the bones. Now this, when combined with the healing aura special from a familiar, can give you a lot of LP, so you can stay here for a while. Okay, so in the previous clip, I did get my rigger on 2 kills later, but I pretty much showed you everything that you need to see. Now, just quickly, we're going to run through the lower level setup. Now, notice this just purely because I know some of you won't want to have to constantly be dodging Zamorak followers. So I use Zami Van Races and Armadyl Pendant. As I mentioned before, you get this from the Temple of Ikov quest. Basically, I've got a Barrow's Glove and Glory Switch. So if I equip this now, you just check the Spiritual Rage. Now everything will go aggro on me. Now, if you notice my HP, it's like quite low, so I'm going to brew up. And an ABT has just got me, so I'm going to pre-arranged. So brew up to full. Now, for those of you who don't know, it's a 3-to-1 ratio. Basically, you can brew 3 times with the Celadon brew before you have to restore, which would boost your stats back up to their original. So in my case, 99 reached. So basically, we brewed up to full. I'm not using an aura in this case because this is sort of just the cheaper sort of setup. So I'm assuming you haven't unlocked Sears Elite, no Enchanted Excalibur, etc. So basically, we're just going to pop the range pop. And you will straight off the bat, you will notice that you take a lot more damage in this setup due to obvious reasons. See how we're taking a 207 there. It's very uncommon to see hits above 200 in the previous setup. Now, because of the nature of spam brewing, as I explained before, you will basically have to put some distance between yourself and the boss, as I'm not using Dreadnips in this version. Now, obviously, some of you will be able to mix and match. You'll have Dreadnips, but you won't have Sears Elite. Of course, I realise that there are a ton of accounts in the game, so obviously it's people with different things that have been unlocked. Now, basically, in this case, I'm 688 HP, but because my defense is a lot lower, I'm actually going to brew, get away, restore, and range pot again. Now, it is useful actually to have auto retaliate on, just in case after this is dead for the next spawn, you want to be able to just hit it as soon as possible if you don't get me. Now, you see I'm 500 HP, so I'm going to brew again, get away from the boss, restore, range pot. You see, you are taking a lot of damage with this setup. Now, hopefully 2 or 3 more hits when I hit with range, and the boss will be dead. But you see, I've already backed down 570 HP. I do have a War Tortoise this time, filled with the shark, so I'm just going to drop a few vials. You see I'm quite low HP now, and I'm getting meatied. So just the easiest thing is just a shark brew. It's not a big deal. Just key is to not to panic, as I said before. I'm going to shark brew again, restore, range pop, and keep attacking the boss. Should be dead if I hit again. Just can't quite see his LP. Yeah, that's not a KO. Just keep going. important thing is just to make sure you don't get melee. And that's a KO right there. Ooh, my mistake. Okay, so we go to the fight closer. So I've got Mind Runes as a fairly common drop. So same order as again with the minions, except this time you can soul split in between kills. Now soul split flicking with range can be quite hard. And you have to also bear in mind that you want to be able to take these down before the boss spawns again. So I'm actually just going to camp soul split until I start getting hit bad now. Scree is the one you want to be taking down first. Now as we see, I'm dealing damage reasonably well because I'm using the same range strength bolts, which are Armadyl, but my accuracy is a lot less. I'll be able to show you after this kill. I'm pretty sure Kree'arra will respawn in the next 3 or 4 seconds, but I have picked a low population world, so picking the world does really make a big difference in sort of how quickly the boss spawns. You don't want to be picking worlds like World 2 unless you're very confident in your PVM abilities. I should have killed it by now. So, now I'm going to get hit back on the boss now. Notice my prayer is very low. And so I'm going to restore again. And pretty much it's just this setup routinely, sort of repeated. Now, you're not going to be getting many kills per trip with this setup as you'll be taking heavy damage. I'll show you some stats. I've recorded 50 solo kills with every type of setup that I've shown you in the guide. And the stats are actually, well, they pretty much follow the trend of what you would expect. I'm just going to shark brew there. Obviously this damage is the most you're going to be taking out of the 3 setups. So as I mentioned earlier in the guide, I did 50 kills at Armadyl with every single setup using the guide, so all 3 with the Gano top, with full Armadyl, and with Carol's. This took well over 7 hours, plus I had to rewatch footage, write down the damage I took, which took in total about 3 hours, and probably about an hour and a half to double check, and then probably about another 45 minutes to log it all. So I did spend a lot of time on the guide, guys. I did get a few drops, as you'll see on screen, whilst doing that. I think they were mostly on the Gano method though. I may have got an FG, but I forgot to print screen or vid it, and that was for the Carol's method. But basically the stats they came up with were quite interesting, and they're as follows. With full Armadyl, 50 kills, this is including damage taken from Ruby Specs. I was using Ruby Specs for the Armadyl method. This does not include damage taken from overloads, however, that's discounted. So I took a total of 39,628 damage, which is an average of 793 life points rounded up per boss kill. In Gano, I took a total of 34,450 damage, or a total of 689 damage per boss kill. And in Carol's, I took a whopping 74,500 damage per boss kill, which is, sorry, not per boss kill, in total, which is an average of 1,490 damage inflicted on me per kill. Now, when you take stats like that, it really does sort of follow the stats of the defense and the offense stats, and you can see that, you know, buying better gear is a better long-term investment, and you'll save yourself on brews, restores, food in general, even summoning scrolls. So yeah, that's pretty much it. I really hope you found the guide useful. Please give it a like and a comment, maybe even a favorite if you found it useful. And yeah guys, I'll see you for the next video. Peace.